So stick around, we're going to show you just how multi-purpose this tarp can be. Okay, so here is one of the uses for this 13 by 9 foot AYAMAYA tarp. So this can be used for the ground sheet for the 6 to 8 or any of the AYAMAYA pop-up tents. Basically any of the tents that you own, you can use this tarp for a ground sheet. So on this tarp here, it is waterproof. So I'll put on the screen the materials and the waterproofness. So this tarp does come with 6 ground stakes, and on the tarp itself you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2, 4, 6. You have 6 grommets and tabs. So that will come in handy when you want to use this tarp for different purposes. Very nice. Now if you have a tarp pole or trekking pole, you can use this as a tarp shelter. And gotta get that down in further. Now set up in a tarp shelter to keep less air out if you're in colder weather. You can do the ground stakes to the ground right through the grommets to restrict airflow through the bottom. This will make your shelter a lot warmer for sure. So summertime, you probably want to get some kind of bungee guy lines and hook to them and then stick them into the ground. That way the bottom of the tarp is above the ground about 3 to 4 inches, allowing some airflow in there. Well, let's take a look around the tarp here. So by the way, we have a tarp pole, not a trekking pole, so the tarp pole is a little bit taller. So just keep that in mind. So you do have enough stakes to be able to do this shelter. Now the only thing is, this tarp does not come with any guy lines. You're going to have to get some guy lines. Either borrow some from a tent that you have, which is what I did, or you can pick some up on Amazon for pretty cheap, I'm pretty sure. Now here's a look at the shelter mode for this tarp. So with a low profile chair, you can sit under this tarp shelter in your low profile chair or a backpacker's chair, or just on the ground. If you sit on the ground, you're going to get more headspace and you can get more people in here. You could probably get 4 people in here pretty comfortable in this setup. Alright, let's take a look at another setup. Okay, here is another use for this AYAMAYA 13 by 9 tarp. So this is kind of a pass-through shelter or an A-frame or TP style. Probably not really TP, but A-frame style for sure. It's a bit breezy. I need to stake that out a little bit tighter, or put a little more tension right here on the front. Alright, so let's take a look at this. So in this setup here, I am using 2 tarp poles and 2 guy lines, which do not come with a tarp. No guy lines. The only thing that comes with the tarp is the tarp itself and 6 ground stakes, which I'm still using the original 6 ground stakes. So the only thing I had to do extra was tarp poles. You can use sticks, you can use trekking poles. Obviously, if you use trekking poles, let's wait till this helicopter passes. Let's take a look at the helicopter. Alrighty, so obviously if you use trekking poles, you're going to be able to, this tarp is going to be a little bit lower and it'll be able to go a little wider. So I've got these tarp poles as tall as they can go, and you can see that we still have plenty of room in there. Even with that low profile chair, you could get a couple of chairs like that comfortably. Or if you didn't have any chairs, you just wanted to sit on the ground, You could probably fit 6 people under there quite easily. Did I mention this tarp was multi-use? Multi-use it is. Look at this. These tarp poles here that I have on the front are 7 foot tall. So I have a 7 foot tall clearance right here, back to my 4 foot tarp poles, and then back to the ground. This is basically a wall shelter, and it is 100 degrees outside here in Central Texas, and I got to tell you, the shade really makes it bearable to do this filming. Unfortunately, I do have to get out in the sun to show you around what we've done here. So let me get up and do that. Isn't this cool though? Look at this. A 13 by 9 foot tarp, all these multiple uses. So in this configuration here, I am using additional tarp poles and 2 additional guy lines. But here again, I'm still using the 6 stakes that the tarp came with. All right, look at that. Look at that shade. Nice big square rectangle shade. Imagine all the chairs you can get under there. You could put your tent under there. Almost kind of have your whole campsite under there. And if you had 2 more tarp poles, you know, you could do that other end and just make a complete total canopy of this tarp and really make a lot of shade then. So this configuration, I'm still just using the 6 tent stakes, ground stakes that it came with, but I am using 4 guy lines and 4 tarp poles for this. Now if you don't have any tarp poles, you can use trekking poles. They're just not going to be as tall. And if you don't have trekking poles, you can find sticks and do this. Those grommets, they're metal grommets. You can stick a stick through there. You can whittle it down with your knife and make it fit through the grommet hole. There, the grommet hole there. And then you can just use any kind of cordage. It don't have to be guy lines from a tent, which I am using. You can use string, you can use tie down straps, whatever you want. Whatever you have to create some shade for yourself. Look at that. That thing is huge. Let's step back a little bit and see what it looks like. Woo, look at that. My neighbors driving by are going to be like, they're having a big tent party out there or something. Maybe they're having a carnival, a circus or something. But man, look at that shade underneath there. Wow. So just keep in mind, if it's really windy, you're probably not going to be able to do this. It'll just be a sail in the wind. But right now we just have a slight breeze and this thing is working excellent. So like I said, these tarp poles in the front are 7 foot tall. The tarp poles in the back are 4 foot tall. All right, it's getting pretty hot out here, but we're still not done showing you the multi-use of this tarp that you can use this thing for. I mean, it's just a really good all-around good budget-friendly tarp. So we're going to show you one more thing that you can use this for. And finally, we made a shelter for our hammock. So if you're at all familiar with hammock camping, there are several different ways you can use this tarp over your hammock. Currently I have this in a diamond pattern. So basically I just took the rectangle and I just turned it diagonal and made a big diamond out of it. Get lots of good coverage that way. Alright, so let's take a look at what we did here. So here again we're using only 2 of the ground stakes that the tarp came with, and we have the tarp turned diagonal, made it into a diamond shape, and we could get more tightness on there. I just kind of threw this up real quick, and just to make life easier I'm going to use carabiners. So again, you're going to have to use 4 guy lines to be able to use this tarp in